Vegas Live. I have Matt with me, and the reason I have Matt is you're kind of new in town. You were here once before, and you've now come back. You've been here a couple of months. What is the difference you've seen from last time you were here and coming back?
Last time, oh my gosh. Well, I think I came to town the first time in probably 2009, 2010, 2009, and it's definitely a lot different. I stayed until about 2013, went up to the Bay Area, now I'm back. There's a lot that's changed. Some of the streets are different, a lot of the clubs are different, some of the things that people perceive as being new and hip and entertaining that I was used to don't exist anymore. You know,
that you liked?
Yeah, that I liked.
Oh, you may not have liked because you left. Do you find that San Francisco is more corporate, or is Vegas become corporate?
Oh, goodness.
Vegas is very corporate.
So when you say corporate, you mean more like big box, kind of
big box,
impersonal?
Yeah,
kind of
it's
stuff
very
like that?
impersonal.
You know, it's just interesting because I think from an entertainment standpoint, we have Vegas, especially comparing to the Bay Area, is definitely more of the big box kind of store.
Yes.
You know, in San Francisco we have a lot more local mom and pop kind of
more
businesses.
Friendly, more intimate.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I find that with Vegas used to be very sort of, you come to Caesar's Palace and it was just Caesar's Palace.
Right.
You know, a lot of the big hotels, and now they're kind of corporate and they own like 4 or 5 hotels.
They do.
But at the same time, you don't get that personal touch anymore. It's more of a
I think
cut and dry.
You know what's interesting is living here, you meet people. You know, you meet people in the industry that work as a concierge, they work as a casino host, or they work at nightlife, and that can be pretty interesting because you make friends with those people. You see them often. You get to know their clients as well.
Yes.
You know, so from that standpoint, I think the community actually, ironically, given how big box and impersonal it can be, is actually pretty personal. It's actually a pretty small town.
That would be on the person like yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Personable with people.
But if you're coming into town, yeah, I think
this
certainly.
This is a service town, though, isn't it?
It is. It is. It always has.
It's always been a service town, but it seems to be now an upgraded service town.
You know, that's actually something very interesting. Is now people expect things to be, and I don't know if this is a millennial thing or it's just where we've gone because there's access to more things to do. But everything, people perceive value differently now than they used to, and even in the past 3 years, we've seen that unless something is necessarily beautiful, or it needs to be beautiful, it needs to be nice looking, it needs to be pleasing, and a lot of people now want things to be warm and welcoming. We're shifting what we perceive. Before, I think probably a couple of generations ago, the more impersonal things were, oddly enough, the more quality people would perceive. Plain, impersonal, simple. Yeah. Now we want things that are bright, beautiful, and warm and welcoming.
So, that's funny you should say that, because I've noticed a lot lately in these big places, a lot of people say, hello, how are you, and it's nice to see you, and thank you for coming in. I'm like looking at them, oh, where did that come from?
What am I supposed to say to you?
Hi!
Right.
You know, but it's a very friendly, and I've noticed this very friendly thing is coming back again.
It is.
I guess they were losing a lot of business, because people don't like sort of, that pushy old style that some people have. Now you're in the kind of the PR business, you're in the filming business, you're in the corporation business, you're kind of all in, but at the same time it's all in one of what you do.
It is. It is.
Which fits Vegas very well with what you do.
This is why we're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There was a study put out in 2015 that was called Advertising 2020. And it was done by the Wharton School of Business. It's an Ivy League business school, and they met with about 200 or so, I think, about 200 leaders of different types of industries, including the advertisers, including the marketers and the public relations professionals. And they said, they didn't theorize, they asked directly, what is it going to look like in 2020? And these folks, they basically said how they're adapting, what they're adapting, and the long story short, the Reader's Digest version is that we have
around?
Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. But there was a few years ago that people started throwing around words like convergence and transmedia, things of this nature. I personally looked at that and I just thought, this looks like a Tetris game, you know, and the media pieces don't really ever fit cohesively when you're looking at a transmedia world. But the convergence model is very interesting because we have these bubbles where they overlap, and we're finding that to really reach people now, given how digital we are, that's old at this point. We all know that is how we live. But people are looking for more intrinsic value. They're looking for things you can't touch and things you can't see, but things that you can feel. So we're moving to a more experiential kind of a culture. And these things in mind with forming a visceral connection with your audience become very important for big companies. And they've started to realize this. They've started to get on board with it. And I think Vegas is a really interesting marketplace. It's always been a tester for us in advertising. It's always been a mix.
Because actually they have all the conventions here. So when they have all, which is they want to come here because there's entertainment, but at the same time they always have the electronic on the radio or the TV. They have all this stuff come to town. It's sort of an experiment of all of us to see what's going on.
And there's a lot that goes on in town here, and that's why advertisers from all over the world, film companies do it all the time. We study what happens here. And we study because there's people from all over the world, from all walks of life, that come to the same events. And we survey, and we look at how they respond, and we measure what they do afterwards and what they buy.
Where they want to go, and what entertains them.
Right. And what happens in this town tends to be happening elsewhere too.
And they're like a copy.
It is. Most people don't realize this. I mean, when MGM opened the CBS television area inside their entertainment city, whatever they called it back when it opened, they did private screenings. They did new showings they did market testing. And people would go to it because it's, wow, I can participate in a television experience, right?
Absolutely.
But it's for market testing.
Are they still doing that?
I don't know, actually. But they didn't hide it.
If they're not doing that, I'm coming over to see if I'll test my show there.
Well, it was interesting because the data that came out of it was fascinating. We found a cross-section that is, and I say we because, at large, you can read these studies online, you see them over the wood.
Yes.
And it's definitely describes Vegas to a T, I think. But it's also inspirational.
And I see that, but I often wonder why you went away and then you came back. You do see the opportunity here to grow your business and to do what you... What exactly do you really want to go into with, I believe, TV shows?
Well, there's actually... So, when I came back to Las Vegas, I started a new company. It's called Matt Kerner & Associates. And that is... it's largely based on the idea that media needs to be experienced at all levels, and that it needs to come from the heart and be authentic. In order to make authentic connections, we tend to look towards experiential things. And my background is, of course, in advertising. I've been very fortunate to have a pedigree upbringing in that world. And working with some really big clients, and that's been fantastic.
What's the name of the clients you're working with?
Oh goodness, I've worked with just out of town, Neutrogena, different Johnson & Johnson brands, a lot of pharmaceutical companies like Medivation and Astellas, and Varian Pharmaceuticals, Autodesk. They make software.
I just wanted to brag about all the names he's worked for because he really is so good.
Well, thank you. No, it's interesting. And I've also, my background is actually in concerts and concert production.
Well, you're definitely in the right place for that.
Right. So the first concert that I ever promoted was Styx and Journey together. That's before they had the new lead singer with Journey.
Wow.
And so working with a lot of legacy bands, like I've worked with the Grateful Dead, I've worked with the Guess Who, Grand Funk Railroad.
Now he's really bragging.
America, Starship, So there's lots of these. So I look at things from the standpoint of what is the experience that people want. So the new business is really about connecting brands and brand owners with their audiences.
Yes.
And I say through what I call dynamic entertainment, which means reaching somebody here through any medium necessary within a skill set that we know we can be successful.
And this is the strangest thing that I have noticed with the entertainment people. They're not familiar, they sleep till 12, 1 o'clock, or they get up at 2 o'clock and then they fiddle around. They're not into the media side of promoting themselves and of putting themselves on.
That's right.
And yet they're in it. I mean, they're showing people what they can do, but they don't seem to be able to put it down on the media, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of these different ones.
It's a challenge to understand what needs to happen in social channels, and there are so many channels that need to work together that even big companies don't quite understand. They don't quite get it right. But the truth is that there's no right way to do it either. It's evolving every minute of the day. Yes, you need
Do
to get out there, you need to do
And
it.
it's funny, once you start getting out there and you see how things work, then something else comes up and you learn that and you learn that. So the time you finish, you can really put this whole thing together. And it doesn't take that length of time.
It's not that hard. Most places, larger clients I found tend to invest in a whole team sometimes, and that can be very expensive sometimes. But other times they don't.
You know, I mean, you're just a band out there. Get yourself out there. Let people know where you're playing. Let people know what you're doing. And let people know who's in the band and the whole.
Oh, exactly. People want to make a personal connection with your brand.
And of course, apps. You know, the greatest thing now is apps. My producer is going like this. She's been doing this for some time now, and I think she wants me to cut.
Okay.
I think she wants us to say ta-ta. We'll be back. Thank you, Matt. You're amazing.
Okay.
We'll be right back. If you like today's show, subscribe.